you were live.
Yeah, I know. I kind of
Okay.
didn't go to the original slide. Hello, and welcome to a new episode of the Burning Question series by Fantasy Football Scout. In this series, Pras and Sonaldo, talk about the key hot topics for the week. Welcome to Double Game Week 26 discussion. Pras, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm good. Sorry for that mini panic. Basically, I opened the YouTube video on my browser and I saw myself looking at myself. So yeah, I thought we've sort of pressed the button too early. But I'm good. I'm good. Yesterday, I think for both of us wasn't as planned. I think a few 50-50s like Nketiah versus Odegaard or Saka Salah captain didn't work out. But yeah, it's fine. I think the game week 26 is upon us, and wildcard and other chips are upon us.
Yeah, and sorry guys, I forgot to change the double game week 25. It still says 24, so I will change this as we go. But yeah, love the introduction here. So here we go.
We're on top of everything. I mean, the thing is, essentially after 10 p.m. UK is when we had to put all this together because everything changed after Spurs losing, Southampton losing, Leicester losing. I mean, basically the whole landscape changed, and a lot of people sort of that had triggered wildcards maybe makes less sense to wildcard. So we'll talk about that. A lot of people, it makes sense to wildcard, but for others, it makes sense to hold. The doubles disappointment of future game weeks is also something that we'll talk about. So let's get going. Let's talk about the macro.
Yep. Again, I need to change the overlays, but okay. So for today's discussion, we're going to be talking about sort of macro view. Now that we know, from all the FA Cup results, at least we have guaranteed doubles in 29, and we know the lay of the land. Then we'll talk about some wild card 26 permutations and different, drafts, and lots of discussion and questions. And then, most importantly, discuss, options for different strategies, as well as for those that might not have wildcards and, sort of other chips left to play. So it's kind of a episode more based on discussion, and also for others without wildcard 26 in mind to have, plans in place for later. So here we go. So
you're doing the helicopter view today.
Okay, yeah, sure. So first things first, guys. This is all on, let's call, Twitter or wherever it may be, but sort of just for those that might not be aware. First of all, in Game Week 27, we have 4 teams doubling. We have Brighton, Crystal Palace, Brentford, and Southampton doubling. I don't think Crystal Palace and Southampton is as important here because, we're probably not going to load up on their assets or even get one of their assets. However, the Brentford and Brighton doubles are very intriguing. Brighton do have a double in 27, followed by a blank in 28, and then a double in 29, which is why we're very keen on their assets. Plus, 26 is a good fixture that presents for Brighton as well. Brentford, very interestingly, have a double in 27, as well as a game in 28 and a double in 29. So another good team to target. More intriguingly, Brighton and Brentford also have possible doubles later down the line. I think 34-37, which makes them even more viable assets to own now. And then you get to game week 28, which is the known blank. We have 6 teams blanking. Blanks for Manchester City, Liverpool, Manchester United, West Ham, Brighton, Fulham. So interestingly, City, what to do with Haaland is going to be a discussion today. We're going to talk about Liverpool. I know a lot of people took -4s, -8s to load up on their assets. And then, Manchester United, interesting because 29 presents a very good double for United as well, but a blank in 28. And then West Ham, I think we have a keeper in mind, so very interesting talk here. Brighton, Fulham, all blanking.
So just one thing to note on 28 is now this is all confirmed because this was obviously contingent on FA Cup. So these are the teams that have made it to the quarterfinal or their opponents in 28. And we've been lucky. I mean, you can say lucky or actually unlucky if you wanted to climb ranks. Lucky because it's actually not painful. I mean, in the past, we've had 3-4 fixtures in Game Week 28 where there's been a need to pull free hits or to dead end. But it doesn't seem like this is going to be a problem this year because of the volume of upsets that it's basically Brighton, Man United, and Man City. These are the 3 teams that will keep coming up as we talk about future games that will blank and then in the future double.
Yep. And another interesting, variation that has happened is that both Spurs and Southampton lost. So now they're fixed into game week 28 as well. And so you have Spurs, Southampton, Arsenal, Palace, and Newcastle and Nottingham Forest as the appealing fixtures. Then in game week 29 is the biggest double of the season. So we have 12 teams doubling in total. Teams that do not blank in 28 and double in 29 include Newcastle, Brentford, Nottingham Forest, Leicester, Bournemouth, Villa, Chelsea. This is very hard to remember just by me speaking on it. So you kind of want to just delve into these charts and really look at it for yourself. And then there's teams that play in 28 but do not double in 29, which include Arsenal, Fulham, Palace, Wolves, and Everton. And I think the interesting thing here is Arsenal, which we'll talk about because, if you're wildcarding in 26, how many do you want with them in mind? Because they're a great team, elite team, but they also don't have doubles in 27 and 29. And
Arsenal actually have no doubles, no blanks for the rest of the season.
Perfect. So no doubles, no blanks for Arsenal, yet they're, top team top team in the league right now. So very interesting stuff. Okay. And then game week 32, we've got a blank due to the FA Cup semifinals. 7 confirmed fixtures with 4 expected teams to blank. And the 2 likely blanks would come from either City, Brighton, Fulham, Leeds, and United, Chelsea. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Pras.
Well, there'll be 8 games for sure. We know that. Because most likely Brighton and Man City will win, or at least one of them will win, because Man City is home to Burnley and Brighton is home to Grimsby. So if either of them win, they will reach the semifinal. So Brighton, Man City, you can almost say is guaranteed blank. And then Man United, Fulham, whoever wins will blank. So you'd expect Man United to beat Fulham at home. So therefore, you have to sort of work with the base expectation that Man United, Chelsea will also be a blank.
Fair. Okay, and then game week 34 is 4 or 6 teams will double. This is because of the blanks in 28 and 32. And same with game week 37, 4 or 6 teams, not 4 to 6 teams, but 4 or 6 teams will double. Again, because of game week 28 and 32. And I think this is quite important to talk about today, Pras, because it's actually not too difficult to navigate, I think, for me, to navigate these doubles later on with the wild card early on, because a lot of the teams that do double here will also have, players. We'll have them in our earlier wild card teams. So discussion.
Yeah, these 2 game weeks. So it's obviously a function of the game week 28 blank not being so bad. Because it's not so bad, the doubles are not so good. In 34 and 37, because basically everything that is postponed in these FA Cup quarterfinals goes into 34 and 37. So that's why 34, 37 are actually going to be fairly disappointing in terms of doubles. I mean, there's still doubles, but it's not of the past where you have 12 teams, 14 teams doubling, and you have this bonanza double game week where people bench boost. So that is also another reason why people are debating whether an earlier wildcard makes sense, because this whole thing of I'm going to wildcard in 33 to set up for a bench boost in 34 may not be as viable. It could still work, but you will have to include some single game weekers because there just are not enough doublers that you would want to have.
Nice. And then additionally, Brighton and Newcastle this is a good fixture that they need rearranging at some point in the season. So this will fall between 30, 31, 35, or 36. And most likely will be loaded up on their assets anyway. So I don't actually think this is that important of a factor that we should consider too much. Some key points to remember from all of this is that, again, Brentford double in 27, fixture in 28, double in 29, fixture in 32. Leicester have a double in 29 and fixtures in 28 and 32. Brighton go double, blank, double. And, we're keen on getting those Brighton assets right now. So just it's very important to remember this because it's actually very hard to get to 11 players in 28, even if 11 players in 28, even if you were to wildcard now. So I think an aggressive play would be try to get to 10, 11 players, but most likely 9 to 10 players in game week 28, even with the wildcard, seems sufficient enough because you have, the likes of good single week players as well, if you know what I mean.
Yep, I agree with you. I think volume is no longer a problem. So people will have 10 or 11. People will have 11 doublers in 29. People will probably have 5 or 6 doublers in 27. Now the question is the quality, not the quantity. So do you want to give up one doubler in 27 maybe a Brentford defender, if you don't want to double up because their double in 29 is poor? Do you want to basically sacrifice an 11th player in game week 28 blank so that you have a doubler in 29, but also a better doubler in 29? So these are the things. It's quality now over quantity because nobody's going to struggle with quantity.
Okay, fair. So shall we go to wildcard?
Yeah, so we're going to come back to 32, 34, 37 later when we talk about free hits, because a lot of people will look at free hits or bench boosts in these weeks. So we'll lay out what are the expected blanks or doubles in these weeks, and then let's debate what is a better week. Because I actually, from what I'm seeing, a lot of people are gravitating towards 34 free hit, for example. For me, 32 is clearly the best one, despite the upsets, but we'll come to that. So let's now come to chip strategy. So we'll start with the most popular one, which is going to be applicable to a lot of teams, which is basically wildcard in 26, which is this game week. You bench boost in 29 because 29 is the largest double, as we've talked about. And then you free hit in 32 or 34. So leave free hit for now as an option. So there's basically three ways you can attack this. And first, I wanted to say why this strategy works. It works simply because a lot of teams have loaded up on Liverpool, and Liverpool now no longer have a game in 28. So it's not about, oh, we took a hit for -8 for 3 Liverpool players and they're rubbish, so we don't want them. It's about, you took a gamble. Now they don't have a game in 28. So now what do you look beyond this? You probably don't want a lot of Liverpool players if you're on this particular strategy. So you basically wildcard all your Liverpool out. And if you're sitting with no Brighton, no Brentford, no Kane, then this is, a strategy that you should consider. Leaving aside that you could have had a couple of Brighton midfielders, you could have had a couple of, Newcastle defenders like yourself, where you could still think around taking a few hits. So we'll come to those strategies. But right now we're talking about wildcard 26. So I can assure you, people who are not looking to wildcard, we'll spend a lot of time on non-wildcard 26 here. And I can also assure you, if you've used a chip, we'll spend a lot of time on people who've used a free hit, who've used a wildcard, who've used a bench boost. So, but we're going to start with the one that everyone is thinking about, which is wildcard 26. As we talk about it, if you're not looking to wildcard, even still that's relevant for you. So I think the team almost picks itself, which makes me very sad because, everyone will converge to similar teams. So people like us who are outside top 100K or others top outside 300, 400K, it becomes more difficult to gain ground in the most difficult period. So if basically now everyone is going to yield the wildcard, everyone is going to have 9 out of, or maybe even 11 out of 15 players similar. So you're thinking, what am I really gaining? But I think there is still a lot of things to talk about in terms of how aggressive or passive you want to be with this wildcard. So we'll talk about it. So I think the attackers, because Haaland is Haaland and Kane now doesn't blank, those two pick themselves, and then Tony has a double. So I think everyone or most people will end up with a Haaland, Kane, Tony triple up top. Now, there is an aggressive strategy where I'll talk about where you don't even start with Haaland. You basically go super aggressive and you start with the Watkins immediately because you want that doubler and you want that player in 28. But we will come to that. So the passive way is to start with these three, and then you go beyond, and then you sort of either take Haaland out or not. In midfield, I think the midfield is the most boring area, because I think everyone will have 2 Brighton midfielders. Everyone will have Rashford. Probably everyone will have Saka and 1 more midfielder. That 1 more midfielder is the only exciting part to talk about. That too only for 3 game weeks, because people will either go Odegaard or even Martinelli now, or you just start with a Maddison. So there's an option there in your midfield as your 5th midfielder to be a little bit different if you wanted to go there. But I think pretty much everyone will look to upgrade that 5th midfielder to a Bruno Fernandes ahead of their game week 29 bench boost, which is what we've shown here. So you can be different in your attackers, as I mentioned. You can be aggressive with Haaland. You can be aggressive with your Odegaard pick. You could go for a Maddison. You can be different, obviously, with Mitoma McAllister, but nobody really knows the answer. You could go for March, but it's basically a 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. Pick your 2. Then let's come to defense. So I think defense and goalkeepers are pretty open. Pretty open in the sense that you know the teams, but you don't know the composition, because I'm not yet sure who I want for my goalkeepers. I want a player that plays in 28 and 29, if I'm talking about goalkeepers. But also I want to pair him up with somebody who doubles in 29. So here, for example, I've proposed Kepa and the West Ham guy, Areola, because I don't want Areola forever. I only need him for his very nice double in 29, which is Southampton at home and Newcastle at home. And then for the rest of the time, I can have Kepa. You can have Raya here. You can keep changing this mix of, you can swap basically Raya for and me for Dunk, and have Raya instead of Kepa, right? So you could do that. But I think apart from that, Trippier, having a Arsenal defender, having
James.
one Brighton defender, and at least one Brentford defender is going to be template. It is what it is. People will go for that because they want these guys for the 27 double. And because Brentford play in 28 and then double in 29, they will be popular. So my first talking point to you is, when I look at Brentford's away stats, and thing to note is Brentford's 27 double is both away, 29 double is both away. Their XG conceded is like 1.4 per game. So you're loading up on double Brentford defense, and what are you really expecting? I mean, is it like they're better than Everton, so it's not like a Tarkowski, but basically Tarkowski and the Wolves guys have shown you that if you go for these players on a double, it doesn't mean a lot of points. So what's your thoughts? Are you looking at double Brentford defense?
Maybe I was looking at the wrong stats. When I looked up XGC for this season for Brentford, they're sixth in the league in all away games.
Home and away. In
all away games.
Only away?
Away games, yeah. So okay. Surprisingly not bad.
1.4 is fairly okay. Maybe the drop off after Newcastle or Man United is high.
Could have been
so I'm not saying they're bad, but I'm just saying 1.3, 1.4 isn't the best either. So you're basically expecting a goal again.
Yeah. They've had 8 clean sheets this season. So I agree. I don't think you're expecting too much, but that's the game we're playing with Brentford and Brighton, right? I guess Brighton is even worse defensively since Gameweek 9 when Zerbi came in. They've had 3 clean sheets so far. So I get it. I get the point you're trying to make, but where else would you go?
The question is you go James and you just go 5. You just go 5 doublers for 27. So you give up a double instead of a Brentford defender. You go for a James, and James has a much better double in 29. He has a much better game in 28. Like your double Brentford defense in 28 as well. They're playing Leicester.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah,
I'll give you alternative thinking here because I was thinking maybe you go James instead of Shaw. You get the double. You get the double in 27 for Brentford. You get a fixture in 28, and then you hop onto James somehow in 29 for somebody else besides. You hop onto Shaw for somebody else besides James.
Yeah, but this what we're showing here on the screen is basically the 29 bench boost team. Of course, I mean, I think you would start here with Gabriel or Zinchenko, and then you go Gabriel, Zinchenko to Shaw. So that spot is already taken because you want that Arsenal player for the 28 game. I'm talking about the additional player. Right now, this draft has Pinnock and me. And instead of one of those, if you have funds in the bank, you go for a James instead. That was basically my question.
Yeah. I mean,
you go for a second Newcastle defender.
If you're not happy with Pinnock, you could go Raya, right? Pretty good defense, bonus-wise as well. So option there.
If you go Raya and Areola or something like that.
Yeah. Areola, Raya, Kepa also works.
See, what we need to keep in mind is, in addition to the doubles you've talked about, firstly, Brighton will have 5 doubles between now and the game week 38.
Yep.
5 doubles is huge. So you want a player that you can bank on forever. That has sort of slightly changed my thinking in terms of, do I want Sanchez in goal?
Yep.
Because you just have that, you have that cover for the 5 doubles. He's not, I agree that, your Raya is better as a goalkeeper per game in terms of saves and bonus than Sanchez. But Raya, are you going to need him in the doubles? Are you going to play him in the doubles when we get to 34, when we get to 37? So that's the thinking. Maybe Sanchez could be a pick in goal. But to be honest, I don't want to spend too much time on this because these are the only decisions. Like, you need to think through, do you want double Chelsea defense? Do you want double Brentford defense? Do you want to go for, double Newcastle defense? These are the marginal calls. So this is not the podcast to tell you what you need to do there. I think we need to all think about it. We've all just had 12 hours to react to this. So we will sort of go through our thinking. What I wanted to spend time on the Wildcard 26 is basically go through 3 versions of aggressiveness. So in terms of aggressiveness, I talked about the fact that you could start with Haaland and Kane and Tony and just keep them, right? You don't have to worry about them. You make your transfers with, like I mentioned, Gabriel to Shaw. You make, Odegaard to Bruno Fernandes. Basically, this is your draft right in front of you. This is your bench boost. It's a more passive bench boost because essentially you're bench boosting with a single game week Saka, a single game week Kane, and a single game week Haaland. Now, these are elite players. And you may say that this is fine. I'm happy with this bench boost. Fair enough. But I want to sort of present alternatives on how you can, you can elevate the risk level to potentially get more gains. Of course, you can lose out every time. Risk comes with, gains come with risk. So let's go to the next draft, which is basically
just one last point before we get there. Just while we're on the, briefly on the keeper topics. So I did see that Sanchez and Ward, rotate really nicely. And usually we have that 4.0, 4.1 as that backup keeper. Do you think, having the mix of, let's call it Areola plus, I think Areola is 4.3 plus Kepa 4.5, 4.4, whatever you may be, is going to down the line be an issue in terms of funds?
I mean, not funds. You'll have to make a goalkeeper transfer later. I just feel, because I don't think you're going to play your Chelsea keeper throughout with all these double. Chelsea only have one more double later. So you might have to move him up to an Edison maybe because he has 2 doubles, or maybe even back to a Sanchez or a Pope. So you could look to do that. There's no problem with that. The other problem I have with Kepa is, who knows if Potter is here in game week 29? And who knows if the new manager likes Kepa over Mendy? I mean, it's like another risk. You've already got the Tony risk. If you have the Kepa risk, then you've got 2 problems ahead of an international break where one of the guys is also yellow flagged, and suddenly you're thinking, should I bench boost or not? So I'm trying to play it a little bit safe. And by the way, that's true of Areola as well. Maybe Sam says Fabianski could start, so he could be back. So I think being a little bit risk averse with some of these spots that are not high upside spots could make sense. This is why I was thinking a little bit more on maybe James is worth it over Kepa, because James is pretty much the only right back. I understand the injury issues and stuff, but that was the thinking. And then the other thinking was maybe Kepa, instead of Rea, you look at Sanchez. But anyway, those are the thinking points that we will develop over the next 36 or 48 hours, whatever we have till the deadline. But it's not a lot. It's not a lot. It's a boring wildcard. But a lot of teams need it. A lot of teams, like I said, are in a position where this is the way they can navigate 27, 28, 29.
Yeah.
But there are other solutions. So let's now increase the riskness of this draft, and let's go to the next draft, which is basically what you do here. You still start with Haaland, Kane, and Tony. But what you do ahead of game week 28 is you switch Haaland to Watkins. So this is not something that anyone would have believed 5 game weeks ago. But yeah, you do Haaland to Watkins with the idea that it gives you an extra player in game week 28. And Watkins has a double, which is Chelsea away and Leicester away, which is okay. It's not the best, but it basically gives you 3 games versus Haaland's 1 game. And then you transfer out Tony to get Haaland back in game week 30. So this for me works better in terms of you're not betting against the house and you're not going with Haaland at all. You're basically only going without Haaland for his Liverpool at home game. He could destroy you in that because his EO will still be 90%, I would think, if 80, 90%. But if you wanted an extra double game weeker for your bench boost, if you wanted an extra player for game week 28, I think it could make sense. The rest of the team is unchanged. I think the one other thing this does is it makes it easier for you to go James, because in the previous draft, if you want Kane, Haaland, Bruno, and James, and Trippier, and Shaw, it starts, and Saka, it starts to get a little bit tight in terms of funds. And remember, if you sell Haaland in this one, you'll have to buy him at 0.5 more, or whatever your sale value is. So you just need to remember that when you sell Haaland, it'll be easy to buy Bruno, but you need to leave funds to get Haaland back, because Haaland plays in game week 30. Who does he play?
Southampton.
I remember Southampton.
So this is booking 2 transfers in.
This is booking. Well, you're already booking many. My issue with the wildcard 26 is not only will the teams look similar now, the booked transfers in the next 4 game weeks will be similar as well. So you and I will do burning questions next week. Basically, we'll just be saying, hey, everybody, we're saving free transfer. Nothing else to do. Because we've all wildcarded to a similar team, and we're all sort of saving the transfer because we know we're loading, we're going to do Haaland to Watkins the week after. So it removes a lot of the skill of reacting. Now, maybe there's injuries, maybe things change, and in FPL world, things always change. So yeah, things may come up that will change and increase the amount of variance. But for now, it's not great, man.
Yeah. I mean, honestly.
Okay, third one. Yeah. Let's move past Game Week 26 wildcard. The last one is basically you don't start with Haaland. You say against Newcastle at home, I have an alternative captain in Saka. So this week I have a captain. I don't need Haaland. He plays then Crystal Palace away, which is a double. So I'm not going to captain Haaland. I'm going to be captaining a Brighton guy. Kane plays Nottingham Forest at home as well at that time. Rashford plays Southampton at home. So if you're of the mind that I don't like single game week or double game weekers, there's other alternatives. So you go without Haaland in the first place. So you don't book the transfer that you talked about, and you basically start without Haaland. That's the other strategy. Obviously, this comes with a lot of risk because now you're not going with Haaland for Liverpool at home in that double in 29, or for the double for others, and for Crystal Palace away and Newcastle at home. On paper, none of them are explosive, but Haaland is explosive in any game. So you could miss out, but your gain is that now you have all 11 players in Game Week 28. You have pretty much a bench full of doublers in Game Week 29. So, you could go, for example, in this draft, you could go Saka to Maddison, and now you have 15 doublers. So this is what this gives you if you wanted to go ultra aggressive, but it comes with risks.
Yeah. I don't like.
Where are you in your scale of aggressiveness?
I think I'm in the very aggressive aspect because what I've been doing is just like trying to really maximize 27, 29 doubles as well as getting as many players as possible for 28, which is basically one more player. So I'm interested in going no Haaland, but it sounds very scary and could be detrimental in Game Week 29. So. Also, there are some other striker options that we have to maybe even consider, like Felix. I like the Ian Asher shout.
Yeah, you could have Felix here. I mean, basically, you would have somebody. So in this particular version, you're not only going without Haaland, you're also switching Kane after Game Week 28 because he doesn't double. So you're basically Kane-less and Haaland-less and potentially Saka-less in Game Week 29, but you have 15 doublers.
Where are you with Kane, by the way? Now that Kane he has fixture 28, no doubt.
Kane will be in my draft for sure. Yeah. I mean, he has gone above Haaland in terms of being in my draft because he has the game in 28. I can take Kane out if I wanted for a player in 29, but then because Haaland doesn't have a game in 28, I would probably take out Haaland first and then just end up keeping Kane for Everton away in Game Week 29, which is okay.
Yeah. And how do we feel about Tony? Just go for it?
Go for it. I mean, what we read in the news is, it's back with the FA in terms of his ban. And somebody somewhere said that the next hearing is in April. So April basically gets you to Game Week 29.
Yeah.
Be prepared, though, that you need to... It's 4-point cost, right? Because there's so many options that we've talked about that are in that bracket. Maybe if Tony gets a ban ahead of Game Week 29 international break, you end up not selling Haaland. Game Week 28. Or you end up going Tony to Iheanacho. Because anyway, Brentford's double in 29 isn't the best. So, or Ings even. Ings has a great double. So there's lots of options in that price bracket that you don't really need to stress about it. I would definitely not recommend going in Boomo and then missing out on all the Tony points.
Yeah. Okay. How about Maddison? I'm very interested in going Maddison from 26, actually. How about yourself?
Yeah. That fifth midfielder that I talked about, you don't have to go for Odegaard, Martinelli, or anyone else. You can basically say, I'll go to Brighton, Rashford, Saka, and Maddison. Yeah. It saves your transfer. But what it does in return, I was thinking about it yesterday, is if you wanted Bruno, and I think everyone will want Bruno from 29, because the way he's been playing since Weghorst has moved to the number 10 and Bruno's moved to the right.
Yep.
the guy is now in goals. It's not just assist, right? I mean, and he's back to the selfish Bruno. I don't know to what extent you followed the final. He had this chance in the last minute where he could have passed to Sancho, and the guy just said, to hell with this, I'm shooting. He would never do this if Ronaldo was around. So he's back to basically the Bruno that we know. So I think there's no way I will go without Bruno. So if you go Maddison for Odegaard, it basically means you're also prepared to sell Saka in game week 29, because that's the only way you'll get to a Bruno Fernandes. Now, I'm open to it, and I will talk about why it makes sense for me on free hitting in game week 32, because I think when we end up coming out of game week 29, we'll all have maximum one Arsenal or maybe zero. And then we'll suddenly think that, oh my God, game week 32, they play home to Southampton, and I'm going to be exposed because now I need to think about my other teams, and my other teams that I've loaded up on, which is Newcastle and Kane, play each other. And Man United blank, Chelsea blank, and Brighton blank, which are the other players in your team.
Is Wilson fit, by the way? He's okay?
He played the final, but Isak is still there, so it will be tricky.
If you're going to hop off Haaland, maybe he becomes an option, because if you get him for the double in 29, his extra double against Brighton might fall in 30-31 as well, right? And then you can just upgrade somebody else to Haaland.
So the latest thinking is that the most likely outcome of this game, this Newcastle-Brighton game, which I remind everyone is basically the only game left outside of these FA Cup postponements, it could be actually after game week 34. So it's made me a little bit more lukewarm in terms of how much I want Newcastle. Brighton, I definitely want 3, but maybe going with 1 or 2 Newcastle for now is okay, and then you just adjust later when their double is announced.
As template as it is, I love this wildcard talk, Pras. It's I'm excited to wildcard, even though I have the same team as everybody.
This is the problem. Yeah. Everyone is excited to wildcard. It has just landed in a way where
it's the same.
I was hoping that only Liverpool. So basically, I was rooting for this scenario where Fulham win, but I was not rooting for everybody else to also lose. That basically everyone ends up in a situation, because I thought a lot of teams might try to sort of go through game week 28, because a lot of people took hits last game week to get Tarkowski, to get a Wolves player, McNeil. So they have players in game week 28, but they I just felt that this strategy works even if you had put out 8 players in game week 28, because game week 28 without Tottenham, without Leicester, was a rubbish game. So there was no point in getting 11.
But still, you must believe there are ways for us to climb. I mean, for example, Top 10K has players that have used a lot of chips. There's got to be ways for us to climb.
I think playing the wildcard now will get you a decent rank, and you'll end up having a decent season. But you will not win FPL. I mean, I know it's anyway difficult, but the big gains come in game week 36 when people bench boost for 200 points. Now everyone is bench boosting at the same time. A lot of people will bench boost at the same time. So I'm just, it's not great when everybody's doing the same chip strategy. By the way, from next year, I can already tell you everybody will have the same chip strategy. It's been very different seasons the last 2 seasons because of COVID, because of the Queen's passing, that we've had a lot of these reschedulings, and that has meant that it has been haphazard with doubles and blanks. Next year, it's going to be simple. It's just the FA Cup blanks that we'll have to navigate. Everyone will know when they are. Everyone will know when to wildcard. So it'll be much simpler. Of course, upsets can change things, but
as a FPL veteran like yourself, before the COVID era, wasn't it the same as what you expect next year to be?
It was, but there were not as many players, and Twitter was smaller, so we could all get good ranks, and nobody else would do the same thing. Now everyone will do the same thing.
Later, we've got to do a how to make the game more interesting discussion. Nice. And shout out to a lot of people joining today. I see some, love for me, so I appreciate it. I just want to shout out FPL Harry, one of the nicest guys in the community. And I read your kind of chip thread the other day, and it was really good. So guys, do go check it out if you have the time. So shout out to you guys, and welcome to the chat. Football Chat Box, Ryan does a great FF Scout podcast, so please do give that a listen when you do have a chance. I'm sure we'll have Ryan on here at some point in time. So welcome to...
I see Spartans. I see Lynn was in the chat. Gianni started Spartans. His channel as well. Zaha, Varon, Ryan, Jack, lots of people. So thank you for joining. I mean, there's over 1,000 people watching. So if you can also like the stream, that would be really helpful.
That is the first time Process asked for likes. So That's nice.
I'm getting used to it. The whole
But yeah, good to see you, familiar faces. Okay, let's go
All right,
to
let's talk about free hit.
free hit 32. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of people's immediate thought after the upsets in FA Cup was that game week 32 is going to be easy to navigate. And this is true because now Newcastle and Spurs have a game, and that was the threat. And we'll have Kane, we'll have a couple of Newcastle players, so we have three. We are all loaded up on Arsenal, so that's good. We probably will get Maddison, so that's good. And then you can navigate it, but I would like to propose something different. So free hit 32 again for just to explain this table is on the top is the teams that will blank or double. So in free hit 32, the teams that likely blank is Man City, Man United, Brighton, and Chelsea.
Mm-hmm.
The attractive fixtures are below that, which is basically Liverpool play Nottingham Forest at home, Arsenal play Southampton at home, Leicester play Wolves at home, and Newcastle play Spurs, which for me is not great because, as I said, your defenders will play Kane. So my thinking was, because of what we've talked about in the wildcard 26, that we're going to be selling potentially, Odegaard, Gabriel Zinchenko, and even maybe Saka, you'll have no to one Arsenal coming out of it. You've all sold your Liverpool players. You'll probably have maximum one Maddison, if that. You'll have three Brighton. You'll have three Man United. You'll have one or two Chelsea. And my immediate thinking was, why not free hit in 32 and sort of anchor your team to do that? And why anchoring will help is when you anchor, then you're more prepared to sell your Arsenal players. So, for example, I know this will come to bite me because Arsenal are a very good team, but have a look at Arsenal's fixtures after we come out. So we own them for Bournemouth at home, triple. We probably own them for Fulham away. I say probably because we might have to bench Odegaard if you go for an Odegaard.
Okay.
Then we have them for Crystal Palace at home. But after that, we've talked about Leeds at home is a good fixture, but it's in game week 29, which is the double. So let's say we lose them. Then they play Liverpool away. They play West Ham away. After game week 32, they play Man City away, Chelsea home, Newcastle away.
Okay.
So it's only game week 32 where I'm really scared of not having any Arsenal players. They may punish me in other weeks, but that's the week where I'm really scared. Southampton at home. So I free hit in game week 32. I get three of them. Liverpool, we've already talked about. I have nothing to do with Liverpool for the rest of my season. And they play Nottingham Forest at home. Now, imagine Darwin Núñez is back in form. Salah is back in form. Not even if back in form, but I would rather have a Salah and Darwin over a Kane and a Trippier that week. Maybe you play Trippier anyway because of EU or whatever, but I don't want Kane away to Newcastle.
Pras is hating on Liverpool because he's owned Trent the entire season, by the way, for those that
I didn't have him this game week. I had him the whole season. And I had Robertson, but another part of the I would say not 50-50, but 60-40 that didn't work out for me. But anyway,
that was just
so you get the three guys, you get your three Arsenal, you get your three Liverpool, you get in addition to Maddison, you get Iheanacho, you get even Barnes if you want it, basically. So you see where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
That in game week 32, you can basically plan for it, attack it, and also you're not constrained by your goalkeepers. Let's say if you went for a Sanchez goalkeeper and you paired him up with who is blanking here. Let's say you don't want to have Pope, or you don't want to have a Ward. You'd rather have a triple attack, or anybody else, maybe Brentford.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can go for you can switch them out. You don't have to worry about having a Sanchez.
Yeah. So I think I totally agree with you, right? I actually think you went very deep into discussing why a free hit 32 works. But another simple way to look at it is that, Planet FPL James was sort of talking about this last week. I was talking to FPL TT about this last week, and he basically, fixture gurus such as yourself, such as Ben, said that a lot of the doubles in 34-37 he assumes will be players, as we know now, involving players we already have now. So I didn't realize that Arsenal have tough fixtures from 33, 34, 35, but it makes the merit of a free hit 32. You could still navigate 32 without a free hit, I think, because we'll have, I think, about 7 to 8 players. You have 30, 31 to get, and 32 transfers to get to more players. But if there is a time to use free hit, I think 32 makes sense because of the doubles in 34 will include the players you have in double game week 29 as well. So it just kind of falls into place perfectly.
So that's 32. Now I'm going to make a case for each. So it's not that I completely favor 32. 34, the teams that will likely to double. So this is based on Planet FPL James's assumptions on where they will fit. As you mentioned at the beginning of the show, there's not a lot of teams that will double. But in 34, the expectation is Brighton. So Brighton will definitely double. Man United will definitely double. City will definitely double. But in addition, you could have Liverpool, Fulham, and West Ham. So, by the way, the assumption here is that Man United, Man City, and Brighton make it to the FA Cup semi-final, which, as we've seen from this round, it may or may not happen. If that happens, it will be even worse, and then you don't free hit in 32.
Yeah.
So, for example, when I was talking about selling Saka for Bruno, right? If you find out that Man United are now out of the FA Cup and they're going to have a game in 32, then maybe you just think, okay, maybe I don't want to sell Saka for Bruno. I want to sell McAllister for Bruno because I would rather not have a Brighton player for 32, and then I avoid free hit in 32 in the first place. So, but these are just because I'm just trying to make sure that people know when they find stuff out. So you have time to think about it in terms of when you will free hit. Free hit 34, the advantage or disadvantages are, again, Liverpool. So Liverpool keep coming up as the team you attack on a free hit, if attack is the word. But they play Fulham at home and Spurs at home. I think both home games, good fixtures. Spurs, you can argue, not great defensively. Even Fulham, not great defensively. But you will still go for a Trent, Darwin, Salah, or a Trent, Jota, Salah. It could work that you have them for 1 week for the double. The problem is Man City have a double, Man United have a double, and Brighton have a double. By the time you land game week 34, you will 100% have 3 Man United, 3 Brighton, Haaland. And then my question is, who else from Man City will you even get for this double, which is Fulham away and West Ham home? Not Edison. Because you have a double game week keeper hopefully already in the, either De Gea or Sanchez or whoever else.
Also, it is Ederson, so...
Also, it is Edison. So then who else from Man City? So therefore, apart from 3 Liverpool, I didn't really see a big appeal here. Yes, Mitrovic will have a double. So if you wanted to go there, West Ham will have a double. I've not listed those because they're fairly difficult because West Ham's double will include Man City and Fulham's include away to Liverpool. So that was my issue with free hit 34, that you can pretty much easily navigate it. And also, by the way, in 34, some of the single game week teams have a very good fixture. So you don't have to worry about a free hit that much, because if I go to free game week 34.
Also, Chelsea do have a double then. Arsenal, Man United, or possibly a double then, but it's not the double you want.
That's
to be
in game week 37. So that the expectation is the Chelsea double will fall in game week 37.
Couldn't that fall in 34 as well?
It could theoretically, but
likely 37.
James knows this better than me in terms of scheduling. It's not. There's a slot for it, but from a TV perspective, it may not work. So the assumption is that it goes in 37. So in terms of game week 34, then coming back, you have good single game week fixtures for players that you may have. Brentford are Nottingham Forest at home. Would you want an Edison, or if you had Raya in goal, you just play Raya, right? As single game week at home to Nottingham Forest. So game week 34, I'm less keen on a free hit. Therefore, and I'm making this point today, is because, like I mentioned, if you anchor your free hit to 32, you can be a little bit more aggressive in your wildcard today and in your bench boost in game week 29. And then lastly, free hit 37. Free hit 37 has a few benefits, actually. Because it's close to the end of the season, you get the beach effect. So some teams are keen, some teams are not. So let's say everyone has 3 Brighton who play Man City and Southampton, but maybe Brighton are done, right? Their season is done. Maybe they're through to Europe, or they're maybe out of Europe and things are not working out. You get out of them. But Chelsea's double is Man United away, Man City away. That's not a double worth targeting. And then you go back to, again, Man United have a double and Man City have a double.
Okay, so just to kind of summarize this, Pras, if you are looking to free hit in 32, you can get more aggressive, as you say. So what exactly does more aggressive mean? From what game week are you starting to build up for game week 34 and 37? And what players are you targeting?
Well, from game week 29 onwards, you need to get your Man City back. So if you sold Haaland, get him back immediately. You need to get Newcastle, because Newcastle will have a double at some point with Brighton. You need to, if you went out of Brighton, you need to get Brighton back. These are your long-term teams. So maybe get one Arsenal back if you're not free hitting in 32. But my strategy would be that I would avoid Arsenal altogether until 32. And then after 32, I will start to maybe look at getting them back at least Saka for sure. So these would be the things, because after this, it's a boring period, man.
Yeah.
Because like I've said, every double, the same teams double.
Yeah.
So maybe think about getting a second Man City because they have two doubles getting up, but who?
Yeah.
I mean, apart from, I would even say at the moment, Gundogan looks like, would be my pick, or Grealish would be my pick as the second City. Because Foden looks back, but then Mahrez still exists.
It's crazy. I mean, like, I thought Mahrez was the safest pick, and all of a sudden, Foden comes into the fold out of nowhere. Gundogan sometimes, like parts of last season and the season before, was a legitimate option as well. So, Man City assets are very difficult to predict. Are there any other single game weeks where you could target a possible free hit here? Possibly the last game week of the season?
That always comes up. People think about it, and it is statistically the higher goal scoring week. But I have done a free hit in game week 38 in 3 seasons ago. Doesn't work. I lost to the average by about 25 points because I went crazy with David Silva instead of De Bruyne, and De Bruyne gets a 17-pointer, and I get the testimonial penalty. That doesn't come from David Silva. So it works in theory, but in practice it's very risky.
Yeah. And what other thing is that if we're, assuming to free hit in 32 and get more aggressive for later on in the season, there's always the factor of the stronger team still being in Europe. And so, does that put question marks on Man City assets later on as well? If you go,
I mean, this is stuff we will have to react to, but they are not free hit worthy discussions. These are things we'll have to react to in our transfers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very possible that if they're deep into the Champions League, that Haaland starts missing a lot of minutes, and even he's not an option. Yeah. But these are things that we react to later. I think for now, what we foresee is these 3 big checkpoints for free hit. And for me, I think all of them have merit. But for me, because I can use 32 in my current thinking, I'm thinking about 32 more.
Yeah. Fair. Same here.
Okay. Yeah. Let's go to the next one. We've talked about Wildcard 26 for a long time, but there is a different variation of Wildcard 26, which you wanted to talk about. And I want to credit Flapjack, who does the excellent Scoutcast and another video at Scout. So he told me about this strategy that he's thinking about, which is basically Wildcard 26, bench boost 27, and then you free hit later. Now, I'll tell you the benefit of this is the one big risk with the Wildcard 26 bench boost 29 strategy is the international break, injuries, Tony's ban, all that good stuff, right? That we've talked about, Kepa losing his spot. Game week 27, if you bench boost, what you're doing is you set up your team with a lot of Newcastle. So, you have your 3 Newcastle playing Wolves. You have your 6 players from Brentford and Brighton. In this case, you can actually pair Raya and Sanchez because you are playing them both in the week that they're doubling. So you can have that. You have your triple Arsenal, and then you have your Haaland and Kane. So not too different from the Wildcard 26 game strategy we looked at before. And actually, the bench boost is also not too different because, if you were to be passive, your bench boost would include a lot of Arsenal players, single game weekers. Here you include a lot of Arsenal players, single game weekers away to Fulham. The benefit of this is basically you're done with your bench boost after, and then you can focus on basically not worry about selling a Haaland after this game week. If you wanted a doubler, you don't have to worry about selling a Brentford player if you don't want him because he doesn't have a great game week 28 and game week 29. So for example, you can easily say, Tony, after this week, after the bench boost, I can go him to Iñiacho because he has a better game week 28. He has a better double. Instead of me, I don't want me anymore. I can go me to James if I have the money. Yeah. So this is the type of stuff that you can do because you're done with your bench boost and you remove the international break uncertainty.
So I think two points here. First, I don't see the gap of 3 weeks between 27 and 29 to be such a big factor to me personally. Maybe it's just a vibes thing, but I just don't think that many issues will arise. If so, maybe 1 or 2 that you can handle with transfers or a hit possibly because you have a massive double game week in 29. The second thing is I know you're saying, so you're basically saying the bench boost is not very different from 29 because it would be probably Saka's in 29 as well, and there'd be 2 doublers compared to Odegaard and Gabriel from this chart, right?
Yeah. There would be 1 extra doubler.
Yeah.
In game week 29. Ignore the 11. See, a lot of people I see in the chat.
I'm ignoring the 11, but why would there be 2 extra doublers? No.
Depends if you sell Haaland or not.
Okay.
If you go for Haaland Kane draft, the conservative draft,
Yeah.
then you have Haaland and Kane as the 2 singlers. Here you have 3 singlers.
Okay. Okay. So it's 1 or 2 doublers more. Ideally in a in a bench boost, 2 times 4 times. How many points are you trying to achieve at a minimum? For a bench boost.
15 to 20 points.
Mm.
But you see,
Yeah.
don't just look at this in isolation. And I'm not saying do this. I'm just
Yeah.
offering alternatives on why this works.
Mm-hmm.
You said 3 weeks is not a long time. Let me go back in 3 game weeks, okay? We're in game week 25. Game week 22.
I'm about to get
Game week
schooled
22.
Here. Okay, here we go.
Game week 22, we all said Mahrez is essential because he's the best City attacker. Game week 22, we said Nketiah has the best XGI of all players and he's a must-own. Game week 22, we said Martinelli has to be shifted to Odegaard.
Mm-hmm.
We said Kepa is the best goalkeeper in the world. What other takes did we have before game week 22? Mitrovic is amazing, and he's a must keep. So you see where I'm going.
Nice,
like
well done.
3 game weeks is a long time.
Yep.
So you may never know what this team looks like, and then you're stuck. This is the only benefit of this, that you do your bench boost, you get out of your bench boost. It's not bad. It's not a bad strategy. Yes, your expected points on the bench boost itself, if things work out, are lower. But who knows if things work out? Get it out of the way and move on with your life, and then just enjoy game week 29. Maximize the 11 on the pitch. Do not get confused by, there's a comment in the chat that there's 12 doublers instead of 2 doublers doubling teams. That is irrelevant. Your 11 that you're putting out is the same in both weeks. It's only the bench that counts.
Yeah, your bench boost in 29 consists of guys like me and Estupiñán, for example. Yeah. Versus Saka and whoever else it may be in 27. So nice, Fletcher. I like that. Also, shout out FPL Team Peter. This is his website. If you don't know about FPL.team, it is, the go-to website to sort of see your permutations for the next few game weeks. So
yeah. I mean, there's an amazing feature, but I forgot to shout him out.
Mm-hmm.
You can actually toggle and you can select what is Planet FPL James's predictions for game week 34 blank. So it basically gives you a picture now if you wanted to look at the fixture ticker on what it could look like. Obviously things change, but I think that's amazing. So it's a really, really good website.
Nice.
Next strategy.
We are entering 53 minutes, Pras.
All right. No, I think we're okay for time. So next strategy. So I saw a comment. Who was it who made that if you wanted to sort of be different and not wanting to wildcard? So firstly, I would say don't be different for the sake of it, but you could be in a good position now where you have Kane, you have one Brighton, you have Tony, for example, you have a couple of Newcastle, and you're thinking, why should I wildcard now? I'll hold it for later. So now we're going to talk about a couple of strategies where wildcarding later could make sense and what would that look like. So this particular one is basically wildcard in 28 and bench boost in 29. So it's not actually very far, but it's very different if you look at the bench boost. And I'll tell you why. Because if, let's say, you have a Tony already, you have a couple of Brighton already, or maybe even if you have a Raya in goal already, and you don't want to have these Brentford players going forward, because as we talked about, you don't want a triple of Brentford in your team. They will start to become a pain by game week 32, I assure you. So what this strategy does is in game week 28, you dead end your team to game week 27. So you get another Brentford, another Brighton. You could even potentially sell Haaland that week, or you can sell your Arsenal asset who are away to Crystal Palace, and you dead end your team to game week 27, get 4 or 5 doublers out. And then in game week 28, when you wildcard, you don't go with Haaland because he has a blank. You don't go with Kane, even though he has a game, but he doesn't have a double. And you basically maximize on other teams. The other teams being Brighton, Newcastle, Chelsea, Man United, and Leicester.
Mm-hmm.
So what you do with that is your bench boost now in game week 29 is way better than the bench boost in wildcard 26.
Wow.
Because you have 15 doublers from good teams who have good doubles. You have 2 attackers from Leicester who play Crystal Palace away and Aston Villa at home. You have 3 players from Chelsea. All the caveats of Chelsea aside, they play Aston Villa at home and Liverpool at home. Good attacking fixture. So you have João Felix. You have your 3 Brightons in place. You have your 3 Newcastles who have a decent, they have a decent defense anyway. And you have your 2 Man United. So, and actually you have your 3 Man United because you can have De Gea in goal in this one. So this way you work out where you have, because of so many upsets, you could now wildcard in a blank game week, which has been unheard of in the past.
Very interesting. I mean, very, very interesting. Who would this apply to? People with probably like one Brentford, one Brighton right now that can get to a decent game week 27 double.
Yeah.
And then
that you can get in.
and then go for it in 28, huh?
So I would say if you have Kane, you
Kane.
have a couple of Brighton players like a Dunk and a Mitoma, let's say. Some people had that. And you have decent Arsenal players, you have Saka. Because remember, Game Week 27 is a good single game week fixture as well. Let's say you retained your Rashfords and your, you have your Trippier already who has a good game. I think it's doable if you wanted to do it. You will give up a little bit of gains in 27 because people who wildcard in 26 will have 5 or 6 doublers in 27. But you will have in 27 excellent single game weekers with easy fixtures, as well as maybe 3 or 4 doublers.
Yep.
But then you come out of it with a better team.
I guess the trade-off is how much better of a team compared to having essentially 3 or 4 less doublers in 27. Granted, they are Brentford and Brighton.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. In this one, you've already sold all your Arsenal. Or no, actually, you can go in Game Week 28. Instead of Rashford and Bruno, you can go for Odegaard and Saka and then just take a hit. So, yeah, you can still navigate 28. This might need a hit to get to 15, but it could make sense. So people need to think about if they wanted to sort of be different and the team looks different and don't really feel a wild card, think about wildcard 28.
I really like this. How do you get to Haaland in Game Week 30? Do you have enough money in the bank here? Or it's a
there's no premium here. You're swimming in money here. There's no premium, 0 premium.
Yeah. So, so that's the question. How do you get to Haaland in 30?
You sell Tony.
Oh, you're swimming in money. You have plenty of money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because there's no premium here. There's no Kane, Salah, De Bruyne, or Haaland.
Oh, right. Nice. Okay, next.
All right, next one. If you wanted to delay your wildcard even further, now what you could do is basically, you think that, again, you have 2 Brighton, you had Tony, you have Kane, and you think that everyone is basically wildcarding to a team that is 4 or 5 players separate apart from me, and my team looks fine. Then why don't you consider basically yourself building towards a bench boost in 29? So get even closer to the wildcard teams this week. If you take a hit this week and next week, if you have to, and then get even closer to these wildcard teams, bench boost yourself in 29, because I think the week to bench boost still remains 29. We've talked about 34 and 37. They're not great weeks.
Yeah,
because you will still have to have single game weekers on your bench. So get to a bench boost in 29. And I have proposed here, for example, this is a team that I think people could have. You have Trent and Salah, for example. You could get to a Mitoma and a March. You have Saka, you have a Rashford, you have a Trippier, you have a Tony, you have a Kane. These are popular players, maybe even Mings. And you have a Kepa and a Ward combination a lot of people have. So you basically take a couple of hits, you get your Nketiah and your Odegaards out in Game Week 28 or 29 ahead of this, and you get to a team something like this, where you are bench boosting with a Aston Villa defender, with a Kane single game week and a me. It's not as good as the guys who are wildcarding in 26, but your benefit coming out of this is now in Game Week 30, you get rid of all your Brentford. You get rid of all your people who you don't like, which is basically your Trents and your Salahs here or anyone else. And then basically do a fresh wildcard from Game Week 30.
Yeah. And with 32 free hit in mind, you're just attacking, you're in prime position to attack the rest of the season. I think the main issue with this is I don't think there's many managers that can navigate the next few game weeks and get to bench boost 29. So it's a trade-off, right? How much damage are you going to be willing to take for the next few game weeks in order to try to gain later in a wildcard 30? But for example, if you don't have any Brighton or Brentford assets right now, I feel like it's a bit difficult to get to the bench boost 29.
We talked about the wildcard 26 first. Unfortunately, 60-70% of people will be in the position of no Brighton, Brentford, no Kane. And yeah, that's just the reality of it. But I want to talk about these strategies so that people don't think that they're sort of being pushed into wildcarding, even though their team looks good. There's lots of teams who played well, got on Brentford assets early, maybe held Tony for the blank and are in a better position than others. I want to provide solutions to them if they want to think about this. They may still choose to wildcard, that's fine, but other alternatives are available.
Yeah. I can't remember our good friend Hibbo's team, by the way. Shout out FPL Hibbo. He just had a newborn, so give him some love, guys. I think he's quite loaded on Brighton and Brentford assets, Pras. So I think he was trying to delay his wild card a bit. So I'm interested to see where he's at. He's obviously having a killer season as well. So there's managers that are not wild carding in 26.
Yeah. Sorry. What
was that?
It's fine. My wife is also working from home today. So let's go to, okay, so similarly, so I want to finish this thought. The problem with this strategy, even if you got to a bench boost and you were able to get out of it, if you go to the fixture ticker after this, which is basically starting from game week 30. So what I wanted to see is, if you did this strategy, do you gain a significant advantage by wildcarding in game week 30, basically dead ending and then wildcarding in game week 30? So if you look at the fixture ticker, unfortunately, the teams that you want to target coming out of game week 30 or after this supposed bench boost, Man United, Man City, Brighton, Newcastle are basically in the top 7, which are teams that a lot of wildcard teams will have. Teams that are not in those wildcard teams, Crystal Palace, who would you go for? I mean, would you go Guaita, maybe Zaha, really? Then you have Liverpool, trust issues. I mean, if you're a Salah believer, you could go Liverpool. You could get to Salah before anyone else. You have Bournemouth, but Solanke is easy to get. I mean, if he's really somebody that you want to have. Spurs you have with Kane, Man City you have with Haaland, Brighton, Newcastle I talked about. So what I struggle with is, because we know the same teams are doubling, which I mentioned, Brighton, Man City, Man United, and in terms of even the single fixtures, there's no one team that stands out that would make it worth holding your wildcard and then wildcarding in 30 to get an advantage. I just don't see that existing.
Yeah, maybe Liverpool, but that's about it. Tottenham.
I've been saying maybe Liverpool for 15 game weeks now. This is the problem. I mean, it could change. Yeah, things change. But, the other thing on this ticker, by the way, at the bottom, right at the bottom, is Arsenal. Again, good team, could do well. But are they going to be getting 4-0s in these games where they're Liverpool away, West Ham away, Man City away? By the way, I've taken out game week 32 here, just FYI, because when I think about free hitting in a particular week, I just take that week out to look at who are the players I want to target outside of that. So Liverpool away, West Ham away, Man City away, Chelsea home, Newcastle away, Brighton home, and then the last 2 game weeks they've got easy ones, Forest and Wolves. Yeah. So there could be a time where people actually don't have Arsenal assets for a long period.
I mean, maybe the advantage for this is you could identify the right picks for the teams who will be loaded upon, but I don't know. Maybe not as good of a trade-off as wildcarding early on.
Yeah. The other interesting thing in the ticker is that Brentford are second bottom. This also sort of makes me wary of a Raya Ward combo, where Raya's a good keeper. He could get good points, but he's got Newcastle, Chelsea, Liverpool, Spurs, and Man City in the last from game week 30 to 38. So not ideal. I don't want to have a lot of Brentford players coming out. And then I also want to address the comment by Ayman, which is saying this is why you wildcard in 33, not 30. 33 onwards, also nothing different.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing very different here. I looked at 33 as well. The idea of 33 earlier, wildcard, was so that you can bench boost in game week 34. But we talked about the fact that bench boost is no better, if not worse, than game week 29. So, yeah, it's not looking good. Wildcard 26 for me, or wildcard 28. Or wildcard 30. That's it. Not beyond.
Yeah, nice. Okay, let's address a final section for those with particular chips missing, such as a free hit.
We have not forgotten about our friends who used up a chip earlier. Yeah. And we will sort of try to do this later as well, because I think burning questions is for everyone, and people do play chips either out of necessity or just how their team looked. So we've made this little table. So let's talk about each scenario. So if you don't have a free hit left, I think you're very happy. You should be delighted that there are no upsets in the FA Cup, because 28 could have been looked really ugly. 32 could have been even worse. And then a free hit would have been absolutely essential. So what could work for you is, now you basically just wildcard if you have the wildcard left. Obviously, I'm assuming here that it's just you just don't have the free hit. So wildcard now, bench boost in 29, but in your bench boost, you don't sell your Arsenal.
Yeah.
Because if you don't sell your Arsenal, then you're in a good shape for 32, where Arsenal play Southampton at home. And then you can also look to engineer maybe getting Salah in 32 by selling Kane, or something else, maybe even Haaland for a couple of weeks, for that blank only. So I think for no free hit, I don't need to help you out. You're in good shape. I mean, you've sort of gotten away with it, if I can use that word.
Yeah.
Because no wildcard is slightly harder, because if you don't have a wildcard, what everybody's using this wildcard for now in 26 is this very powerful wildcard that is getting you through 27, 28, 29. Now you don't have that very powerful weapon. So I would say what you could do is you could look to bench boost, and you don't have to now bench boost in 29. Start to build towards 34, so that you get Man City, you get Man United, you could get Brighton, and maybe ignore teams like Brentford. So you have to sort of strike up. Actually, Brentford you'll have to get as well, because you may not be able to. You'll need teams who double in 27 and 28. So my target would be Brighton, Man United, Newcastle, in addition to a Haaland, and that sort of sets you up for a bench boost in 34 and 37. If your team is obviously better shaped, then you could even target at 29.
So for no wild card, would you just take massive hit early on, like game week 26, and just take a minus 16, minus 20, and just get all those players in place and have enough time to make it up? Or you try to find the right times, or it's too complicated because it's a trade-off with all the single players you already have that could do well, such as Mars against Bournemouth, I believe, this week, or whoever it is, Southampton this week. Yeah. So how do you when do you take the right hits?
Put faith in more single game weekers in some of these weeks, like Arsenal. So I would sort of keep my double or triple Arsenal and have faith that they deliver in game week 27. So a Odegaard does as well as a Mitoma, even though Mitoma has a double and Odegaard has Fulham away. Then in game week 29, and Odegaard does as well as at Leeds at home as, again, let's say Mitoma for an example. So then you need to have faith in your defenders. Maybe go for more Newcastle defenders, because they pretty much, even though they don't double in 27, they have a game in 28. They will have doubles in the future. They'll have a double in 29. So that's why I think getting Man United, Newcastle as long-term picks and Brighton as long-term picks should sort of help you out. And I don't think you have to take 16, 20 points. You sort of pray for a little bit of variance in these game weeks where you'll have slightly less doublers, fewer.
Yeah. Okay.
And then lastly, no bench boost. I think that's not as big a deal as we're all sort of putting out single game weekers in our bench boost in all likelihood. The advantage that you could have if you don't have a bench boost is you could consider free hit in game week 29. So while a lot of people are sort of focused on bench boost, and let's say some injuries crop up ahead of game week 29 in the international break to key players, I hope that doesn't happen, but it could happen. And you are then in a position to say, I'm going to attack it with 11 doublers that I've picked just after the international break. I know exactly who's fit, who's going to be playing. I'll go for Nacho and a Madison. I'll go for a Felix. And these players who are slightly punty, but, maybe Haaland's not fit, or Kane has had a niggle in his England friendly. So these are things that you could take advantage of. So you have an advantage, actually, if you have your free hit still free and you're not constrained by the bench boost. But otherwise, you can just wildcard in 27 and free hit in 32 like everyone else. Just choose not to bench boost in 29.
Yeah. Okay, nice.
So that was it. That's all in the last 12 hours that we could think of in terms of everyone's strategy going forward. Things may change with injuries and stuff, but that's all we have. I mean, you wanted to talk about your team in specific, and
I want to talk about two things. First of all, captaincy for this game week, as well as the option to not captain Haaland for the foreseeable future. But anyways, first, this game week, who are you thinking for captaincy?
I mean, Haaland got his rest, and I saw the Newcastle game. They didn't show me any fortress kind of, they're away. So I'm a little hesitant to go against. I mean, I know Saka's looking great, but he's not Haaland. So because he's got, I think he didn't even come on in the FA Cup game. So he's got a full rest. He'll definitely play Newcastle. I'm minded to just stick it on Haaland. Where are you?
Yeah, it's Holland and Saka vice captain right now. But
I mean, we've been at the wrong end of a lot of
yeah,
captaincies recently.
I've been
right?
wrong all season. Yeah.
Well, apart from triple captain, where we triple captain Rashford.
Yeah,
But
that worked
apart
out.
from that,
Mhm.
the Rashford Haaland lost out badly. Saka, Salah lost out 7-8 points. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, I think we'll go again. We'll see. There's always the benefit of Saka. People considering Saka midfielder captaincy is always great because they get you. They'll probably keep a clean sheet against Bournemouth. So you already are 1 point ahead of Haaland, an extra point for a goal as well. So there is a chance.
It's crazy. Like, I feel like momentum is a real thing in FPL. It isn't, but it is, because when the green arrows come, they keep coming, and then when the red arrows come, they keep coming as well. It just can't catch a break. I
I mean,
thought
people
this
talk
week
about
was going to be a great week for me, and lost half the rank, so it's been frustrating.
it's fine, man. You have to think about it, break it down into 50-50s. If I look at your team, you lost out the Nketiah Odegaard 50-50, the Saka Salah 50-50, and then you chose not to go for a Liverpool defender.
Yeah.
So that was always a risk. So, but all those three risks sort of panned out. Liverpool keep a double clean sheet. Odegaard, scores a goal. Nketiah is benched for both. And then,
Yeah,
if Salah hadn't
unbelievable.
scored, that would have been brutal.
Yeah.
So, but at the end of the day, you took 3 50-50 calls. Some weeks it'll work, some weeks it won't work. There are still a lot of 50-50s in the wild card. The Mitoma versus March versus
Yeah.
McAllister, which Brentford defender to go for, Estupinian versus Dunk. There's a lot of subtle 50-50s that will sort of, in the end, will be like, 20 points we lost out had I gone Dunk instead of Estupinian, for example.
I mean, I'm assuming Mitoma's locked for both of us. Marsh over McAllister at all? McAllister is playing number 10, but he's also could play
I haven't
defensive
given
mid.
it thought.
Yeah.
I haven't given it
Just
enough thought. I mean,
coin
McAllister
toss.
has pens, but the risk of playing deep in some games, with March, you just know where he's going to play throughout. So, I mean, with this stuff, I think we need to talk to fans who know their club, who know X minutes. If Brighton are going to have 5 doubles, I want people who will play all the 10 games, basically.
Oh, crap. Yeah, so I didn't sort the ranks out, guys. I'm really sorry about this. So
Of course, you want it to be much higher than me, even
I've
though you
been
dropped.
match fixing here a little bit.
It's fine. It's fine. By the way, one other thing we didn't talk about, or I think we mentioned it, but it's people are talking about. I see Chris in the chat. They're talking about Tony's ban. So we talked about this. That Tony's ban. I think the latest is that it'll be April when the next hearing is, and then April gets you straight to Game Week 28. And if it comes, it comes. During the international break, it's 4 other points. I don't need Tony for Game Week 29 as much as I need him for Game Week 27 and 28. So the thinking is you just get him and you deal with it. Maybe it doesn't come by Game Week 29 and then you take him out for Haaland after. So
yeah. Shout out Al Fuzzy, big boss. How are you doing? Yeah. Okay. So this is my team. And so we're both wildcarding, right, Pras?
I have pressed the button. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I just wanted to show you where my team's at. And I debated wildcard or no wildcard for a while. I have some decent placeholders in Botman, for example, who has a fixture in 28, double in 29. But there's a lot of issues here, and I think the wildcard 26 is the right play. I mean, Bueno's an issue, and Nketiah's an issue. I don't have any Brighton. I don't have any Brentford. Tarkowski, I can't stand this. No, I mean, he's a good player, but not a good player. And Mahrez, maybe great game this game week, and then becomes an issue forever. So it's just a wild card, waiting to be happen. So I might as well do it now. Yeah.
Are you open to brainstorming, or are you gonna get?
Yeah, I'm open to brainstorming.
Double-minded.
Let's go.
Look, you have 8 players. You have 8 players for Game Week 28 already,
Okay.
right? I mean, if I count Bueno as a player, I don't know what his injury update is, but let's say he's fit, right?
Okay.
You have Kepa, three Arsenal. let's count Nketiah also for now. We're just playing devil's advocate. Let's say somebody else has Odegaard, right? Instead of your... So you have 3 Arsenal, Kepa, 1 Everton, 2 Newcastle, and 1 Wolves. So you have 8 players, actually 9 players. So you have the luxury of focusing on, you have the luxury of looking at wildcard 28, where you say, I don't want Salah, even though, by the way, Salah plays Bournemouth in 27, so he may be a good one to keep anyway. And you're going to say, look, I'm not going to worry about Brighton or I'm basically going to focus on the 2 players everyone will focus on, which is Tony and Mitoma. And so for Darwin, I'm going to get Tony. And for Mahrez, I'm going to get Mitoma. Maybe I'll take a hit for Andreas. I'll get March.
Mitoma, Tony, plus another
Correct.
Brentford.
Or did I cut that? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
So what I was trying to say is then in game week 27, you're giving up a little bit, but you're giving up a little bit in the sense that Salah is playing Bournemouth away and nobody will have it. Instead, they will have Estupinian, which you won't have. So yes, you're giving something away, but is it that much? So maybe think about wildcard in 28, and that wildcard in 28 then has no Brentford, so no Tony issue, none of these Brentford defenders with 1.4 XG conceded, and you have a nice team. So put that in mind. My team is way worse than this for 28, because I don't have the additional Newcastle defender that you have. I don't have Bueno. I have the Pattersons, and he's not a player. So, and there were a couple of other differences, I think. And then I have Nketiah, obviously, which you also have. So for me, I had done the math, and it was way better for me to just wildcard now because the uplift in 26 was big enough, on 27 was big enough, even though 28 wildcard going forward will be better than 26 wildcard. Just 26 and 27 and isolation was much better.
Very nice.
So that was my...
Very nice. I've been looking at it from the wrong angle because when I was looking at Newcastle, I was only particularly thinking about the blank game of 28. But again, by the way, Pras made this wildcard 28 last minute before our pod. And so I'm
going to shout out who told me about this
Flapjack.
No. Yeah. Flapjack is bench boost 27. Wildcard 28 is shout out to Sertau. He put out something in the night, and I saw it and I thought that's an interesting idea.
Nice. One last question on this. What is the main difference again for wildcard 28 double game week 29 versus a wildcard 26 double game week 29?
No Brentford, closer to the double. Things could change, injuries could happen. You could go in wildcard 28 without Haaland, whereas now people will be afraid to. So you can basically, like the old times, you can basically wildcard before the bench boost and basically get maximum information. Use your funds wisely without a Haaland, maybe even without a Kane. Or you go for a Kane and you sell him immediately for 29, so you have more flexibility. So there's certainly ways that go back to that draft and tinker and see if that works better.
Very interesting. Food for thought. I definitely want to sleep on it, but I don't like the fact that I'll have 2 without a hit versus the 5 or 6 in 27. So
Yep.
Okay.
All right. I think we're done. I wanted to say that the wire is starting in 10 minutes. So if you have your afternoon is going to be busy. So, head over to that in 10 minutes. And I know some of the stuff they'll be talking about, which will be more focused on the Game Week 26 wildcard and their own strategies. So definitely check that out.
Guys, please do give us a like and do follow Fantasy Football Scout. If Fantasy Football Scout does well, Burning Questions gets more exposure and it's a win-win for everybody. Thank you, everyone, for joining again. I think we could do questions for a little bit, Pras, before we go.
If we have 10 minutes, yeah. 7 minutes. How essential is Kane, Magic 69? Yeah, he's so expensive, it'll be hard to move to Madison. He's got a good point. Now that we have got a Kane and Haaland problem, and if you also want Bruno Fernandes in 29, and you want a James and a Trippier, then funds are tight. So for me, Kane is very important because of Nottingham Forest at home in Game Week 27, and the fact that he has a game in 28. That makes him more essential in the very short term to Haaland. So that's basically my thinking on Kane, that he should be in your team over Haaland at the moment if you were even debating the two.
Okay.
My
Guys,
wildcard team, I have no idea. We've just started making, we only
yeah,
got the news yesterday.
like this
Of
morning.
the three
Yeah.
I presented, I'm probably sitting in the middle where I do intend to sell Haaland for, let's say, Watkins. So I'm open to selling him. I actually did sell him in the beginning as well of the season. That whole server gate, I ended up selling Haaland at some point. So I don't have a lot of value tied up in him. So I'm definitely looking to take the punt of Haaland at home to Liverpool. Is he home to Liverpool? Sounds scary, man. But anyway, I'll take the punt.
Oh, Adam Clark poses a good question. What do you do if you still have triple captain? Definitely play it in a. I guess it's tough because you're gonna probably use another chip in 29.
Well, now 34 doesn't have a conflicting chip.
Oh,
You can
true.
just wait
Yeah, yeah.
and triple captain Haaland in 34.
Or 37. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Hi guys, would you do Felix to Tony this game week? Felix
To
is a
Tony,
good
there's no
hold
need
as
to.
well. I like Felix
Yeah.
for the next until all the way up to game week 32. Yeah.
I mean, if he has Haaland, Kane, and Felix, then I can see
Then
the
you go
problem.
Felix. Yeah.
Then you keep Felix this week. You wait, maybe you take one more week, take stock of Tony's ban, and then you go maybe. But yeah, it's a tricky one. Is Fraser Foster going to be in goal for Tottenham? Yeah, I think he's going to be in goal for a while because Lloris is out until post game week 29. But he's not a goalkeeping option because he doesn't double in game week 29. So if you're looking to bench boost, he's not an option.
Yeah.
John Cahill, what's the perfect triple up? Brighton triple up. That's a good question. I'm not prepared to answer it because I've not looked into the data. But what's your feel?
Who? Which team?
Favorite triple Brighton?
Brighton. Estupinian or Sanchez, depending on the team structure. But between the two, Estupinian, as long as he comes back and he's not injured, very attacking. And then I think Mitoma would be my second pick, and possibly it's coin toss. But I like McAllister because of the pens. How about you?
Fair.
Yeah.
As I said, I've not done enough research to know. I mean, obviously it'll come down to injury.
Yeah.
But I'm actually leaning more towards Dunk or Sanchez over
Dunk is an
Estupinian. I
option.
get the attacking threat, but Dunk is also good for bonus and nailedness. I mean, we've seen now how people have been burnt by Robertsons and Nketiahs, and even people who are nailed but not that nailed. In a double game week, things are difficult. Brighton's going to have a lot of games midweek weekend. So maybe that's a food for thought.
Yeah, but they've had 3 clean sheets, Dunk has been a disaster to own at parts of the season. But anyways, I think FPL Wire will be good to listen to for this kind of insight, possibly. Yeah.
If we have enough players for game week 28 and then wildcard 29, we can bench boost in... No, you can't. You can't play 2 chips in the same week.
Maybe a couple more.
Gareth, are single match players in 27 good enough to match Brighton or Brentford? I think so.
Yeah,
Let's say you have a Bruno Fernandes still in your team. Bruno, you don't have to go. Bruno is home to Southampton. You don't have to go Bruno to March. It's about getting the 2. If you can get the 3 biggest owned or biggest, most popular players that everyone is going for, or in a practical sense that you think will score the more points, then go for the 3, and then you don't have to get 6 doublers. This is my thing about game week 25. Game week 27 is I'm not feeling double Brentford defense because there's so many other good defenders. You just play Trippier, or you play double Newcastle defense or home to West Ham or something. I don't think it's that much of an issue, and then you have a better doubler in 29.
Oh, you're just planting the seed for wildcard 28 and me.
I gave you a warning before I told you.
Oh man, yeah. Okay, nice. What is the optimal triple Arsenal right now? Gabriel
Zinchenko is similar. Zinchenko will get more forward, get an assist like he has. The goal is, 0.0 xg. I mean, any defender can score a worldie. I'm not going to count that as his asset. And then Gabriel has headers.
Yeah, but you know what? As someone who went wine to Gabriel for -4, this is totally biased here. But every time I watch him play, there's very few opportunities I see him to nick a goal. I mean, when you say Gabriel is due a goal, like I don't buy that at all. It's like all I'm
3xG,
waiting,
man.
all I'm waiting for is
That's all.
like corner kicks, and it's
You
like
can't take a two game sample, 3 game sample for a defender and expect a goal, man. You want Gabriel, hold him for the whole season. I guarantee you he scores 2 goals
yeah,
from
yeah,
now
yeah.
until the end of the
But
season.
I expect a goal every game from my FPL players. So
All right. I think we're done.
okay, that was nice. Yep. Thank you guys for joining once again. So we'll be back next game week, and good luck to everyone this game week. Any final words, Pras?
No, good luck. Put some thought. Don't copy other people's team this week. It'll be very easy because there'll be so many people wildcarding. This is the last edge, I feel, a big edge that you have. Think about your team, put work into looking at stats, go to the members area, look at how the 3 Brighton midfielders are doing, look at keepers, save points, bonuses. I intend to do that over the next 24 hours. This is your time. Get this wildcard right, because after that, the biggest edges are gone. Everyone will be doing similar things.
Yeah, and by the way, like there's great content on Fantasy Football Scout YouTube, but Neil in the members area does some exceptional writing. So there's some really good, you could just read those articles and get a good idea of what you need to do. So shout out Neil in the members area as well. Yeah. Okay.
Yep, Neil and Tom.
Neil and Tom, sorry. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, see you guys next week. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.